Another day when I don't really have much to do, and another 2 Steven Universe reviews. Today we are once again going back to the early episodes of the series with the 3rd episode chronologically. I actually have been doing some research and it looks like they weren't really aired in this order to begin with, which is kind of weird. But the 3rd episode chronologically, Cheeseburger Backpack. And I will just go right out and say it, I'm not a huge fan of this episode. This is actually the first episode of the series that I saw, and it did not leave me impressed. Spoiler alert, by the way, not just for this episode, but for future episodes, potentially. It depends on what I actually end up talking about in the review. This episode is made a little bit better later on in an episode called The Test, when we realized that they were just testing Steven to see how he could handle going on an actual gem mission in this episode. In hindsight, it does make it a little bit better, but at the same time, not really, because the episode still has a really conventional story about the kid character trying to prove himself to the adult characters, in a show that thankfully never went the route of all adults are stupid like some of these shows do, where you have a kid protagonist. Here they actually avert the trope. The gems are very much more competent than Steven is at this point. He really does have to learn and continue to grow. Despite that, though, he does actually come up with better ideas than Pearl. I think twice in the episode, once when they're trying to get from the cliff to the actual Sea Spire, and then once when they're trying to get past the crystal shrimp. And I understand they were supposed to be letting him come up with ideas, that it was a test for him. But did Pearl just not know that or something? Was she not in on it? Because she genuinely seemed like she was trying to figure things out for herself, not just trying to encourage Steven to do it like the other two seemed like they were doing. I do think it was interesting that they sort of averted our expectations by allowing Steven to fail, because by the end, he actually forgot the item they needed to bring with them, and the Sea Spire falls into the ocean. That's not something you typically see in this kind of story. Typically, the protagonist will fail here and there throughout the episode, but when it comes down to it at the very end, they will succeed in whatever it is they were trying to do, typically through like sheer tenacity or something along those lines. So in that department, the episode was a lot more, I guess, realistic, you would say, than the typical story of this type, but it still felt really conventional to me, and I just didn't particularly like it. And my dislike of the episode is kind of helped along by the fact that this is back when they were really trying to find their footing in regards to the animation on the show. You had some animators who were better, and you had some animators who weren't as good. And this is an example of the latter. The animation in this episode is just not good. And again, like I said before in these reviews of older episodes, it is only made worse by the fact that the show has just gotten so much better. The animation in the current episodes is so crisp and clean and beautiful that it really accentuates what was wrong with the animation back in these earlier episodes, but only some of them. Some of them are actually still quite good. Overall, though, I have some really negative feelings about this episode. Watching this episode as my first taste of Steven Universe almost turned me off to the series altogether, and I kind of blame the episode for that, even though it's not really the episode's fault. The episode doesn't have any free will. It can't actually be at fault. I don't see this as ever being an episode that I'm going to ever look back on fondly and remember it as anything other than the episode that almost made me not watch what is probably my favorite TV series at this point in my life. But guys, what did you think of this episode? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you dislike it for some of the same reasons I do, or do you think that my reasoning is completely flawed? Let me know in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.